You're live with BBC News. We now turn to the South China Sea, where a standoff between the Philippines and China has seen tensions ratcheting up in the area. Well, Manila accused the Chinese Coast Guard of, quote, barbaric and inhumane behavior for stopping its navy evacuating a Sikh serviceman stationed on the Second Thomas Shoal last month. China's foreign ministry accuses the Philippines of lying, and they say that the Philippines will be allowed to access the zone if it gives advance notice. Chinese ships have repeatedly been accused of harassment of Philippine ships, including firing water cannons and ramming boats. China's foreign ministry on Sunday blamed the US for raising tensions in the region. Well, to understand the conflict as it stands at the moment, I'm now joined by John Blaxland, Strategic and Defence Studies Professor at the Australian National University. Thank you very much for your time here on Newsday. How seriously are you viewing these incidents? Do they have the potential to spark a wider conflict?
So there's no doubt that this has the potential to spark a wider conflict, but it all really depends on the resolve of the participants in the stoush, if you like. The Philippines is not very well armed. It's not in a position to actually assert itself very strongly. China has more ships operating in this area, maritime militia, coast guard and naval vessels than the combined fleets of the Philippines and the US Navy operating in the East Asian waters, particularly around the South China Sea. So there's no question that China has the numbers here, but this, I think, has to be put in the context of other conflicts as well. We have what my colleague Brendan Taylor describes the 4 flashpoints of East Asia: the Korean Peninsula, the East China Sea, the South China Sea, and of course Taiwan. My sense is that what we're seeing in the Second Thomas Shoal is a demonstration, if you like, of what China is trying to say to others, including in Taiwan, about that it is prepared to press to a point, but looking to not cross a kinetic threshold, if you like, not firing any bullets or guns or missiles, right. Looking to provoke and perhaps, push to the limit and perhaps trigger a reaction from the Philippines or the United States or someone in Taiwan elsewhere in similar circumstances, to then be the ones that they can say, see, we're not the starters of this conflict, you guys are. My sense is, though, that what we're seeing here is not so much, we tend, in the West, we tend to view things in terms of binaries of war and peace, and we tend to view things through the lens of traditional 19th and 20th century strategists, Clausewitz, Karl von Clausewitz, the classic one. My sense is that what we're seeing here is not so much what could be put in the metaphor of a game of chess, perhaps more appropriately described as the game of Go. And of course, as you know, in the game of Go, you don't remove players from the board, you flip them, you cajole them, you persuade them, you blackmail them, if you like. You don't give them an option other than to be flipped. And my sense is that this is what's happening with the Philippines.
I just also wanted to push you on another point. Beijing on Sunday blamed the US for the increased tension, saying that a move to deploy medium-range missiles in the area is, quote, dragging the region into the whirlpool of an arms race. Now, main allies like the US or even Japan have pledged ironclad support, but what is their level of commitment, do you think, if things escalate?
So it's really touch and go because we know that the Arbitral Tribunal ruling of 2016 ruled very much in the favour of the Philippines about its exclusive economic zone. But the Second Thomas Shoal is much more clouded, it's much more grey. This is not something that has categoric, legal, internationally recognised legal jurisdiction falling on the Philippines. It's in their EEZ, but it's not the territory itself. This is why the Sierra Madre, the ship that's been lodged on this shoal, is kind of having troops on board, having people living there on a semi-permanent basis, is designed to provide evidence to the world that the Philippines can legitimately claim that. But broadly, that's not recognised internationally. So China knows that in the grey zone, and it echoes what happened 12 years ago over Scarborough Shoal, where there was a contest between the Philippines and China over who could control it. And the United States didn't really want to back the Philippines over the Scarborough Shoal. Why? Because it was it was not a very clear issue in terms of the jurisdiction. Similarly with the Second Thomas Shoal today. So China knows that in pressing this, it's putting the United States in a difficult position because legally the actions of the Filipinos are not ones that everybody is all that sure about backing them over, except in terms of the fact that it is inside their exclusive economic zone. And of course, China did not accept the Arbitral Tribunal ruling of 2016 that said the 9-dash line doesn't count. And ironically, of course, China did sign up to the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea. So it's trying to have it both ways.
All right, Professor Blaxland, I'm afraid that's all the time we have, but thank you very much for your views on that.